Good afternoon, class. It's a new week, and this week we will be starting with Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which is a very famous novel. It is one of his seminal works. Mm, I hope you've all finished reading the novel. It's a short book, and you can just finish it in one reading. So today we will go very briefly into the biography of Joseph Conrad and the publication of this book, and a brief history of Congo as such. So Joseph Conrad wrote during the 19th century towards, the latter half of the 19th century, almost to the 20th century. And the 19th century in particular is considered to be a period of questioning and inquiry, meaning that all the established notions of customs and all those established traditions and culture of Europe in general was already very stable. But however, due to the Industrial Revolution and to the Scientific Revolution, this brought about a spirit of inquiry. People started questioning their innate beliefs. They started questioning the church. They started questioning the society. They started questioning the government, and so they questioned everything. And so this is led by the scientific spirit and rationalism. And like I said, it is a questioning of the accepted social beliefs and norms. And due to the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of economic depression. The Industrial Revolution happened in the 18th century, remember? And due to that, many people from rural areas started migrating to the city where there are more job opportunities. And so a huge number, more than half of the population of the rural areas, has migrated to the city during the Industrial Revolution. And so due to that, there was a lot of overpopulation in the city, overcrowding, and there were many people who did not get jobs. So economic depression started happening. There was unemployment, and so overall, it was a very difficult life. So this is, the basis or the foundation of the life of modern man. In because the modern man became somebody who is lonely in the city. In rural areas, everybody knew each other. They worked in harmony with nature, with their neighbors, with their friends and their family. But in the city, after they've moved to the city, in the city they did not have much friends. They did not have much family. So everybody was isolated, uh, was on his own as such. And so it was, the modern man became, an isolated being. He was a lonely man. And that is evident in the novels that these writers, write. And so therefore, the modern novel tries to portray life realistically. And therefore, since life in the city was not a bed of roses, it was not a happy life. So the novel, since it portrays life realistically, it became very pessimistic in tone. And Joseph Conrad, who was born in 1957, was Polish by birth, and he wrote in English. So he was not English. He was not an Englishman as such. And he set sail on sea by 17. His parents died very young, so he was an orphan. He was taken care of by his uncle. And just when he was 17, he had a desire to travel for adventure, and so he set sail on a ship by 17. And in 1889, he sailed on a Belgian steamship as the captain, which became the source of the novel. So he was a captain in a ship, and he um, traveled all over. His writing career spanned 29 years. He wrote numerous novels, short stories, essays, and plays, of which this particular novel is still very relevant even today. Critics and scholars still study this novel because although it is just 100 or so pages, it has so many ideas and thoughts involved in it. The historical context of this novel, as such, is that this novel mostly takes place in the Congo. The Congo is in sub-Saharan Africa, and it is right in the middle of Africa, of the African continent. And during the 19th century, Congo in particular, and the whole of Africa in general, um, garnered a lot of interest and attention from the European countries. They have never visited these places before, and after they explored these places, they see that the continent is so rich in so many things, like in ivory, in gold. Uh, in teak and all these natural resources. And so, since due to the greed of the European countries, these small lands, these lands or these countries in the sub-Saharan African continent were divided up in what is known as the Scramble for Africa or the Berlin Conference. It was the Berlin Conference that actually divided Africa into imperialist or colonial territories, meaning that once these European countries started, exploring the African continent, they were greedy, so greedy that they wanted to establish trade, and they wanted to, um, you know, rule over the people as well and do trade. They would extract all the natural resources, take it back to their home countries, and from there they would make all these goods and they would export it to other European countries. And since there were a lot of political and economic rivalries between the European countries, they decided to have this conference, this Berlin Conference, wherein they would divide Africa into uh, different territories to be ruled by each country. And so, uh, for example, some territories were ruled by France, Germany, England, and Belgium, for example. And so this Congo that this book is located in, is the setting of this book, is ruled by the Belgian king, Leopold II. And King Leopold II, I will link a short video, YouTube video along with this lecture, so that you have to watch that. You will be able to, make sense of the historical times, how cruel King Leopold was. And so this little area, this beige colored area, is called the Congo. It is right at the heart of the African continent, and all these other places. This was ruled by, if you can see, France, this by Britain, this by Germany. So the African continent was divided into all these small territories by the European countries. And these European countries had such a thirst for for the natural resources and the riches of Africa, that nobody told them to rule over this land. It wasn't theirs in the first place, and they started conquering them. And the atrocities they committed upon uh, Africa in particular is very, very atrocious. It is horrible. King Leopold, when he ruled the Congo Free State, in the name of trade, he would, um, employ the natives, and if supposing this patch of land was to be governed, was to be worked by this many people, for instance, 10 people, and if they did not submit this amount of profit that the king demanded, then their hands would be cut off. He cut off millions of hands, and around it is estimated that around 1 million people died during King Leopold's reign in this place. And so the atrocities committed were so horrible that the other countries, the other European countries protested. And it was only after that that King Leopold was removed from this reign. And they even say that hands and broken hands and limbs would lie around just like that in the land, in the water. It would float about. And that was the extent to which King Leopold essentially murdered the people of Congo. And he is even, historians even say that he is comparable. He is no better than Hitler. All right. So next class we will move on to the actual book. And with that, we stop with this lecture. I will see you again in the next class.